Okay, in this video, I'm going to work through some problems by applying the binomial theorem. If you don't have a copy of this worksheet, either electronically or on paper, pause the video and go ahead and download your copy. I'm going to be working through the odd problems, and then you are to complete the even problems and submit them through Canvas. So you'll notice the first thing I did is, before we get started doing some problems on the binomial theorem, is I have a copy of the binomial theorem. So the binomial theorem, as a review, says when I expand a plus b to the n power, I can follow this formula. And it's really long and confusing. So I find it's best to just focus in on the part I outlined in pink, where it says n choose r, and remember that's the same as NCR, a raised to the n minus r, b raised to the r. And another way to think about this is the a is the first term in the binomial, and b is the second term in the binomial. So problem number one is asking us to find the coefficient of x squared in the expansion of 2 plus x to the fifth. Now there's really not enough space here for me to write, so I'm going to write over here. So we have 2 plus x to the fifth power, and we are looking for what is in front of x squared. So using our formula, 2 is a, x is b. And so if I'm looking for x squared, that means I'm looking for this b value squared. And that tells me that I know n is 5 because it's to the fifth power, and 2, that's going to be my r. So I can set up 5, choose 2, times a, which is 2, to the n minus r, times b, which is x, to the r. So now I'm going to grab my calculator, and I'm going to type in 5, math. I'm going to go to PRB, probability, and I'm going to pick number 3. So I'm going to do 5, choose 2, because that's where the n goes, that's where the r goes. And I get 10. Times, now 5 minus 2 is 3, 2 to the third, times x squared. I know 2 to the third is 8, so 10 times 8, this term would be 80x squared, and my answer is actually just 80, remember, because it's asking me for the coefficient. Let's take a look at number 3. Number 3 is asking me for the coefficient of x in the expansion of x plus 3 to the fifth. So I have x plus 3 to the fifth power. X is now a, 3 is now b, n is 5. And I'm looking for the coefficient of x. So here, because I have because a is x, I know that I'm going to have to do x raised to the 5, because that's n. I don't know why I wrote 5. That was kind of dumb. 5 minus, and it needs to be x to the first. So what r value am I going to need to use? I'm going to need to use an r value of 4, because that way I'll get x to the first. So that means it's going to be times 3 to the fourth. And it's going to be 5, I did not leave myself enough space, 5c4. So on my calculator, I'm going to type in 5c4, and that gives me 5. And then x to the first, and I'm going to do 3 to the fourth times 5 on my calculator, and that is going to give me 405. So again, it's just asking me for the coefficient. So the coefficient is 405. Now, number 5 is a little trickier because it's asking me for the coefficient of x cubed y squared in the expansion of x minus 3y to the fifth. So number 5, x minus 3y to the fifth. Now, again, 5 is n. Make a little note. I know that this is A. I know that this is B. And I'm looking for what is in front of x to the third y squared. Okay, so I'm going to take my A, which is x, And I know that that's n minus something. And then my b is negative 3y. And that is raised to something, the r. Like this is going to be the same value that I'm going to put here and here. So I want to get y squared. And that makes sense because if I do 5 minus 2, like, because remember my formula is a raised to n minus r, b raised to r. If I do y squared and then 5 minus 2, that'll give me x cubed. So that means I need to do 5c2 again, which I already know is 10 because I've done that before. So I've got 10 times x cubed. And now when I square negative 3, I get 9. And then square the y, I get y squared. And when I multiply this all together, I'm going to get 90 x cubed y squared. But again, they only want the coefficient. So I only need the 90. Number 7 is a little bit of a different problem than 1, 3, and 5. Number 7 says, find the second term in the expansion of y minus 2x to the fourth. Now, I want to point something out. In the video you will have watched previously, they didn't treat like the true second term as r equals 2. So let me just make some notes here. So this is number 7. And we are looking for the second term of y minus 2x to the fourth power. Now, to be clear, so when I set this up, the second term, this is the first term. This is the first. This is the second. In the video, they called this the 0th term, but really this is the first term, and this is the second term, and so on and so forth. Okay, so when we are looking for the second term, we are really going to use an r equal to 1. Okay, like if we were looking for the third term, we would have an r equal to 2. If we were looking for the third term, oh, I said that. If we were doing the fourth term, it would be r equals 3 and so forth. So let's go ahead and identify y is a, negative 2x is b, 4 is n, and I know that r is 1 because I'm looking for the second term in the expansion. So like literally you count 1, 2. Kindergartners don't count 0, 1, 2. Like that's, you don't, the first one is 1. Okay, I gotta let this go. So I've got 4c1 times a, which is y, raised to the n minus r, times b, which is negative 2x, raised to the r. So now 4c1 is just 4. And then this is going to become y cubed. And then times, and then that's just negative 2x. So when I multiply this together, 4 times negative 2 is negative 8, becomes negative 8xy cubed. All right. Number 9 is asking us to find the first term in the expansion of a plus b to the fifth. Okay, so obviously this is a, this is b, this is n. I'm looking for the first term. If I'm looking for the first term, r has to equal 0. So I'm going to do 5c0, which is always 1. Like if you think about it, if I have 5 items and I pick none of them, how many ways can I do that? 1, I get nothing. Times a to the n minus r times b to the r. Well, a to the fifth, and then b to the 0 is just 1. So my answer is just a to the fifth. Cool. All right, now the next 3, the directions say expand completely, so I'm definitely going to need some more paper. Now, I'm going to kind of put this so I can still see it. Can you still see it? There you go. Okay. So number 11 says expand completely, and my binomial is 2m minus 1 to the 4th power. Now, I'm going to be really honest with you. You have a choice. You can either use the binomial theorem to get your efficients, like you can do 4C0 on your calculator. Like you can sit there and you can be like, all right, if I need my coefficients, I can do 4C 0. Boop. And then you could do 1, and you could keep doing that. I mean, like that's totally fine. Or you could use Pascal's triangle. I'm going to do this one with the calculator, and then I'm going to do the other two, 13 and 15, I'm going to do with Pascal's triangle to show you both methods. So I'm going to use straight binomial theorem here. So I have, here's A, here's B. My n is 4. So I'm going to start with 4C0 times 2. And this is like, you just got to do it. I mean, make sure you put that in parentheses. You have 4 minus 0 times negative 1 to the 0. Now, personally, and this is like just totally a personal thing, I find this to be really long to write out across. So what I do is I'll take all the terms and I write them going down just because I find it easier, and then I can write my final answer as a polynomial. And that's just personal preference. You obviously can write it across, but I just find this, when I'm organizing my work, I find this to be easier. See, like I just go, I change my R to 1. Now I'm going to change my R to 2. Now I'm going to change my R to 3. All right, and so now I'm going to do each one individually. So now I've got 4C0 I know is 1. And now 4 minus 0 is 4. 2 to the 4th is 16. So I have 1 times 16 m to the 4th. And then negative 1 to the 0 is 1. So that tells me my first term is 16 m to the 4th. 4C1 is 4. When I do 4 minus 1, I get 3. 2 cubed is 8. M to the 3rd. Now this one, I got negative 1 to the 1st is going to be negative 1. So now when I multiply my coefficients together, I'm going to get negative 32 and then m to the 3rd. Okay, so now for C2, so again, my calculator, 4C2, I get 6. Now I'm going to go here. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. 4m squared. And then square the negative 1, I get 1. So I've got 24m squared. And then for my last term, I missed one. Forgot. 4C4. Oh, tragic. Okay. So I have 4C3, which I know is 4. And then 4 minus 3 is 1, so that's just 2m. And then negative 1 cubed is negative 1. When I multiply all those together, I get negative 8m. 4C4 is 1. 4 minus 4 is 0, so 2m to the 0 is 1. And then negative 1 to the 4th is also 1. Okay, so now that I have my 5 terms, I can write my answer as 16 m to the 4th minus 32 m to the 3rd plus 24m squared minus 8m plus 1. And that's my expansion. All right, so I'm going to do number 13. I'm going to do it the same way. You know, this one I think I'm going to do calculator also. I'll do number 15 with Pascal's triangle. All right, so number 13 is x to the 4th minus y all to the 5th power. So I need to expand this. So I'm going to start 5C0, 5C1, 5C. And again, you can work across. But you can kind of see this is too big. Like I couldn't write this 5 times and fit it on the paper. Maybe if you have smaller handwriting. I don't know. I write kind of big sometimes. All right, so now I've got x to the 4th, 5 minus 0 times negative y to the 0. Here my r is 1, so I have x to the 4th, 5 minus 1 times negative y to the 1st. Now I've got x to the 4th, 5 minus 2 times negative y squared. I've got x to the 4th, 5 minus 3 times negative y cubed. I've got x to the 4th, 5 minus 4. That's really messy. Sorry about the handwriting. There are a lot of terms here. I know you miss my singing. All right, here we go. 5C0 is obviously 1 because if I have 5 things and I'm picking 0 of them, there's only one way to do that. Now here, 5 minus 0 is 5. Now if I have x to the 4th, x to the 4th to the 5th, power to a power we multiply, that's going to be x to the 20th. Then y, negative y to the 0 is just going to be 1. When I multiply all this together, I get y to the 20th. 5C1, if I have 5 items and I'm picking one of them, there are 5 ways to do that. So now 5 minus 1 is 4. 4 to the 4, x to the 4th to the 4th becomes x to the 16th. And now I've got that negative y because it's to the 1st. When I multiply all this together, I'm going to get negative 5 x to the 16th y. So now I actually have to get a calculator. I really feel like this is 10 math. Hey, I was right. It's 10. So I have 10. 5 minus 2 is 3. X to the 4th to the 3rd, power to a power we multiply. 4 times 3. Sorry, I was being loud, so my family, they just came in. They'd be quiet. 4 times 3 is 12. And now I've got negative y squared becomes just y squared. And when I multiply all this together, 10x to the 12th, y squared. All right, 5C3. Oh, I forgot the 3. 10. Oh, duh. 10. That's 2, and that's going to be x to the 8th. And now this is going to be times negative y to the 3rd becomes negative 10. X to the 8th, y to the 3rd. And now this is going to be 5C4 is 5. And then that's going to be a 1, so it's going to be x to the 4th. And then you're raising it to the 4th power, so that kills the negative. So that's just 5. And then 5C5 is 1. This becomes a 0, so that's also a 1 times negative y to the 5th. It's just negative y to the 5th. And now that I found all my terms, I can write out my expansion, which is going to be x to the 20th. It would have been better if I had written this in another color. Oh well, hindsight is 20/20. X to the 6th plus 10 x to the 12th y squared minus 8. Nope, poops. That's 10. And there we go. Cool. We've got one more to do. This one I'll do with Pascal's triangle because it's a little shorter. So got my binomial theorem still handy dandy here. And the last one, number 13, I forgot what number I was on, is going to be y minus x squared to the 3rd power. So instead of doing NCR, I mean, this is only, so this would be to the 0th power. This is like, a plus b to the 0. 1, 1. That would be A plus B to the first. Whoops. Oh, you can't see that. I'm so sorry. There you go. Excellent. All right. So now we've got 1, 2, 1 because I added those together. Now that would be to the second power. And then I have 1, 3, 3, 1, and that's the third power. So these are my coefficients. So I'm just going to go 1, 3, 3, 1. Now I've got y to the 3 minus 0, y to the 3 minus 1, y to the 3 minus 2, y to the 3 minus 3. Now I've got negative x squared raised to the r of 0, raised to the r of 1, raised to the r of 2, 3. Here we go. 1 times y to the 3 minus 0 just becomes y to the third. And then this is just like anything with 0 is 1, so that's just it. Then we've got 3y squared times negative x squared. So that's going to become negative 3y squared x squared. Then we've got 3y to the first. And now when I square this, it's going to become x to the fourth. That's pretty much it. Here, 3 minus 3, oops, 3 minus 3 is 0. Y to the 0 is just 1, so 1 times 1. And then when I raise negative x squared to the third, I get negative x to the sixth. So, last one, y minus x squared to the third expands to y to the third. Oops, that should be minus. Minus 3y squared x squared plus 3y x to the fourth minus x to the sixth. It is now your job to complete the evens on this worksheet. I'm done.